for everyone watching, Anthony Scaramucci is a man who shouldn't need any introduction. Former White House Director of Communications, investor, entrepreneur, and political consultant, the Mooch has made a name for himself with his larger-than-life personality and even greater acumen in finance and politics. Enjoy perhaps the most unique, insightful, and honest insight into the state of everything from the economy to the geopolitical climate. Thank you for joining us, man. I really appreciate it.
And I got to tell you something. Even though my agent requires me to have great hair gel and great makeup for events like this, I did this just for you, okay? I struck that out of my
you look great.
Boss. But thank you guys for having me. I'm in my study. It's day 25 of being here with my family. I have nose hairs coming out of my ears, and I've been cutting them with a hedge clipper. But other than that, I think we're doing okay. So far, we're family's still together, and there's no steak knife in my back right now. So
it's a good start.
All good over here.
Would love, obviously I've got your background, but would love for the audience sake to just give a little bit more of your background, pre-White House and post, like everything about you. I'd love to hear the backstory.
All right, well, I'll give you the 2-minute infomercial, okay? So I grew up on Long Island, where I'm talking to you from. I live 2 miles from my parents. I'm here in the town of Manhasset, which unfortunately has become a coronavirus war zone. We have over 2,000 people in our local hospital here, 100 of which died last night, which is a real tragedy. But this is my hometown. I went to public high school at the Port Washington Public High School, Tufts University, studied economics there, went on to Harvard Law School. I was at Harvard Law School with Justice Gorsuch and Barack Obama. And I graduated and went to Goldman Sachs for 7 years. I worked in the high net worth area, basically private banking. I left in 1996 to start a company, which I sold to Neuberger Berman in 2001. Neuberger then merged with Lehman Brothers. And obviously, most people on this call would know Lehman Brothers was the largest bankruptcy in U.S. history, happened in our last crisis, 2008. But I left Lehman Brothers in 2005 to start Skybridge. And Skybridge celebrated its 15th anniversary on March 7th of this year. So we started March 7th of 2005. And less the 11-day debacle, I have been in the public equity, stock, and bond market since I graduated from high school. From college and law school.
Yeah, really impressive financial background. So on that note, I'm curious with your thoughts on the financial recovery side of this. So let's assume, just for the argument's sake, that like May 1st, we start to be able to open things up again. And I'm just using this for argument's sake. And by August 1st, the disease portion of this, we got to start to move on and open up and get back to life as more usual, given whatever's not lasting. What do you think the financial recovery looks like from this? What can we kind of expect financially here?
So, I want to draw some context though for people so they can understand why I'm so bullish. You have a economy that was operating at about $500 trillion a quarter. We had to shut the economy down, or as Paul Krugman would say, we had to induce a coma of the economy to protect the nation's health and the nation's citizens. And so when you stop and look at what we did, we shut down about 65% of the economy through social distancing and isolation. That's about $3.7 trillion. And so when you step back and look at the magnitude of the stimulus that's going to hit the economy as a result of that, 10.2 trillion, now another 250 billion announced today. So we have $10.4 trillion of money hitting a $3.7 trillion problem. I am wildly bullish. I'm going to see if I can close these doors here. My kids are screaming in the background. Don't you love quarantine? Can you hold on one second?
No, it goes. It's all good. Mid-speech, in the beginning, I had the dog barking.
Hey, can you close me in here? It's too loud, honey. Yeah, see that?
Yeah, you're good.
I got my 5 and they're playing like cowboys and Indians out there. They're setting fire to my wife in the kitchen, but everything's fine. Okay, let's just not focus on that right now. Yeah. But the point I'm making is that a $10.4 trillion stimulus overwhelming a $3.7 trillion hole, I think we're going to recover way faster than people think. Moreover, there's nothing structural wrong with the economy. Our last crisis, we had our entire banking system in negative equity. and we had an upside down imbalance in the housing market and several structural imbalances in the economy. We were coming into this on a very positive glide path. So when we come out, I predict you'll be back to the 2019 fourth quarter GDP numbers by the first or second quarter of 2021. And that's a very vibrant, full employment economy. So all the gloom and doom that's out there right now, I'm not a big buyer of it.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. It just doesn't have the undertones. And so switching hats for a second to your 11-day government stint, would love to know, just because I know you have more experience in that, in how the government's handling this. We've seen the CARE Act. We've seen 3 different stimulus packages. There's already talk of a 4th. What steps do you think the government's going to take and needs to take, and anything you think they should be doing that they're not currently?
Well, listen, I don't want to be critical, because I think they're by and large doing a very good job. I guess we did an analysis at Skybridge. Our economic team in the beginning of this said, okay, what's the adjusted gross income state by state? And then what are the per capita needs of people? So building back the consumption. As an example, you're not going to a restaurant, I'm not going to a restaurant. We're not flying. We're out of the hotel businesses. There's 65% of the economy shut down. And so you're probably at 40% of what you would normally consume, which, as a side note, is fantastic for me, because my American Express card bill, I mean, it was down a lot. Okay. And my kids are on that bill, and my wife. I was like, all right, well, there are some benefits to the quarantine. But the point being, if you look at survival, it's $3,000 a person and $1,500 a child. The government came in with $1,200 and $500, and I'm telling you, that's not enough. And I predict that they will layer on another stimulus. That will be a middle and lower income stimulus. It'll be a Main Street stimulus, which will give people some more confidence, and it will raise people's animal spirits, and it will lower their anxiety coming out of this disaster.
And so you think that the effect of that will be, once the disease starts to pass and it's more economic recovery, that'll be what helps build the catalyst? Is that fair to say?
I do believe that, yes. I'm very confident of that, because, but again, listen, even if they don't do that, you've got companies like Skybridge that are still paying their employees, Disney's still paying people. There's a lot of people that are still being paid. I guess the restaurant industries are decimated. The president came up with actually a very good idea the other day, which I hope they deploy, is that you would make business lunches fully tax deductible again, as a way to induce people back into these restaurants and diners. And I think that would be amazing.
I agree. I thought that was a great point that he made, actually. Just real quick for the audience, feel free to start submitting questions now, because I definitely want to make time for everyone to ask questions. So again, hashtag QCon on Twitter. I'll be reviewing them. Next question for you. With all these bailouts, with all the government putting out so much money, do you think there's a long-term economic risk there? Is there any concern with the fact that we're just printing more and more money to make this happen?
Okay, so I've obviously spent a lot of time studying this. Yeah. And I guess what I would say to your listeners and viewers is that we have more deflation in the world than we do inflation. And remember, deflation is a very bad thing, because if your money's deflating, it means it's rising in value. So what ends up happening is your wages are going down, your prices of assets are going down. And some people say, well, that's a good thing, right? Because you can buy more at the supermarket, but it's actually a really bad thing if you own a lot of debt. And so let me just give this example to your listeners. If you're making $60,000 a year and you have $220,000 of debt, that's the average American. Well, in a deflation, your wages are going down, and now you have to pay the debt back with dollars that are worth more than the ones that you originally borrowed. That's a disaster for an economy, and it causes a full-blown implosion of an economy. The very flip side, inflation, if you got the debt and things are inflating, you pay the debt back with dollars that are worth less. That's more or less how we've driven our society for the last 70 years. So what's happening right now is, because we have so much labor, billions and billions of people have onboarded into the Western capitalist system, and our technology has gotten better in terms of managing inventory, that we actually have a specter of deflation that is hanging over the society. So the money printing in 2008, everybody predicted inflation. You didn't get it. And I'm telling you right now, we've blown such a big hole in the global GDP that 10, 12 trillion dollars of money printing, in my opinion, is not going to cause the inflation. You have too much deflation out there basically right now.
Yeah, no, great answer. And so my last question before we get into other people's questions would be,
yeah,
what would be like your piece of advice for business owners right now? How should they be thinking about this, navigating this? What opportunities should they look for? And frankly, how should the more affected companies be thinking about how to make it through this?
Well, I think it's an accordion, right? I think you have to look at it as an accordion. The small businesses, my message to small business owners is get the PPP, the payroll protection plan, get as maximum amount of a loan that you can get at 1%, and dig in, offer some lower prices on your stuff to get people back into your stores. And I think you'll snap back pretty quickly. I guess what I'm worried about is that a lot of businesses, according to Bank of America, only have 27 days of cash available. And so they're probably running thin on cash right now. And some of them may struggle to open. So I'm just hoping that they open the spigot of this sort of stimulus, if you will, quickly. I think we've been a little bit slow on the stimulus because of the nature of the government. It's sort of a bureaucracy. So larger businesses, I would say, there's merger opportunities. For Skybridge in the last crisis, we bought a big fund of funds from Citibank. They made a very big difference in our business. I'll probably be, once I can get back into my office and look at the landscape of what's out there, I'll probably be interested in buying things. And I would tell people to be aggressive. I always tell people in business, as long as you have good risk management, fortune favors the bold. And if you got caught off guard here and lost a little bit of money, guess what? Everybody around you lost a little bit of money too. And there's a huge opportunity to make this money back.
Yeah, that's been a common sentiment that we've talked about today is, kind of have to run at this. You have to figure out where to be aggressive. Obviously, risk mitigation is important, but still holding back, holding on for dear life doesn't seem to be the way to adapt to this right now.
And don't sell things in a crisis. Don't be in a rush to sell things. I mean, in the stock market, if you're there, hold on. If you own bonds that have lost some value, but they're still money good and paying their coupon, relax. See this thing through. This is my 9th crisis since I started investing. And I can tell you the thing I've learned is it's a different movie each time, but there's one plot line in that movie that always makes sense. Don't sell in a crisis. Calm yourself down, see yourself to the other side of it, and you won't be kicking yourself if you can get there.
Awesome. All right. So now I'm going to take it to some audience questions. The first one is, are we a nation of restaurants or a nation that will be self-reliant? How would you rebuild the middle class? So I guess the question is, how would you rebuild the middle class here that's being affected by this?
So listen, I think, again, the government is doing a reasonably good job of providing supplemental replacement income and replacement cash flow for businesses, try to get them restarted. I guess what I would say is that no matter what your side of the spectrum you are politically, I think one thing that we have been reinforced in the COVID-19 crisis is that we're sort of all together. It hasn't really escaped anybody. You could be in any walk of life and any income station and end up with COVID-19, including the UK Prime Minister. And so what I would say is we are a country more united than we are divided. And I think that the best way to rebuild the middle class is to sort of do what the government is doing. They're finally providing economic stimulus and economic planning, and hopefully maybe they'll layer on an infrastructure bill, which will help rebuild some of the nation's schools and some of our our hotel, our airports and the infrastructure around the airports and the bridges and tunnels and things like that. And hopefully they'll do that. But I think that's the course of action that we have to take, particularly for the middle class.
Makes a lot of sense. All right, the next question is, love the optimism. What do you think is going to happen to the nonprofit sector? What's the recovery path for nonprofits?
So that's a really good question. So embedded in that stimulus, there's about $300 or $400 million that nonprofits and NGOs can go for grants and forgivable loans to help stabilize wherever they were. And so that is in there. There's a component for helicoptering money. There's a component that's going to increase and boost up the PPE, the personal protection equipment of hospitals. And add hospital beds and infrastructure to our healthcare system. And there's a component of that money that's going to NGOs. And so if you're working at an NGO, hopefully they're applying for that money, which will hopefully get them kick-started. I think you have to accept that there's probably going to be a drop like there was in 2008 of some charitable giving, only because people's disposable income is down. But the very, very good news about America is that stuff starts coming back pretty quickly.
Yeah, the history's there. Do you see a transition from paper money to digital currency leveraging the situation?
Another good question, because now people are concerned that the paper money has COVID-19 on it, or the coronavirus. And so, yeah, there'll be more of that. There'll be more Venmo. There'll be more PayPal sort of transfers. There'll be more cashless or wireless transfers at Starbucks and things like that. But you still got a crotchety old group of people demographically that are going to cling to paper money.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and I'm one of those people, you know, and I got it right here.
Yeah.
So when people ask me what political party I'm actually really from, I'm actually from the Green Party. You see that? That's the party I'm actually from. So the point being is that when you're old like me, you're always going to have some money in your pocket.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I think a little bit of that question was also, what do you think about like the cryptocurrency side of things? Do you think that'll have any type of effect? So far, it looks like it's been hit just as bad. So it doesn't look that way. But
well, I think you have to remember something. I think crypto, I'm not an expert on crypto, and so I don't want to ever pretend that to young people. But I think that crypto is an asset class that will likely make it. There's elements of that in the blockchain that are fascinating. And, you know, just think of the notion that if you can have that pure transfer of value and it's done anonymously and it's done unbelievably secured, you know, I can see how there's value in those things. But I think we have to recognize in a crisis, no matter what our statistics say, our correlations in a crisis, they go to 1. And so crypto is moving like the stock market. But guess what? The bond market's moving like the stock market.
True.
Everything is sort of like being flushed out, if you will, and there's a run for cash. And so, you know, we're moving way more quickly today than we did 10 or even 20 years ago. You've got technology where a slow motion crisis of 2008 that took place over 9 months, we had a bear market in 7 trading days. And then we had a bull market recovery in 3 trading days. And now we're sort of, you know, doing this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, everything moves a lot faster these days. Next question. Anthony, I want to be bullish. I really do. But with the waves of coronavirus anticipated in the fall and beyond, combined with the lack of timely coordination of public health, Germany made us look like amateurs. How can you be bullish? So someone that...
Well, I think Germany made us look like amateurs, and South Korea made Germany look like amateurs. I mean, I think that, you know, we were, let's face it, we weren't prepared for the crisis. Our reaction time was too slow. But on the flip side is, I don't think we'll ever be in this position again. I predict that the government will probably have a cabinet level agency department, if you will, sort of like a Department of Pandemic Defense, reasonably quickly, the same way they did a Homeland Security Department after 9/11. Yeah. And whether you like Homeland Security or not, we've had very low incidents since 9/11 of terrorist activity. And I think we're really going to have a much beefier pandemic response going forward. When you think about the fall and you think about the resurgence of this disease, I would ask your listeners and people watching us today, read The Great Influenza. It was written by John Barry. It got FedExed to me by one of my clients. It's a phenomenal book. And I think you'll get comfort that these waves, they sound scarier than they actually are. And in the Spanish pandemic, the second and third wave was actually more deadly than the first wave. But we had people, we were able to work our way through it.
Well, yeah, by the time fall hits, there should be treatments. There should be, we're going to have some preparation around this and ideas, and it won't be so far in history that we've gotten rid of those preparations like people tend to do.
Exactly.
So this is a fun question for you. Do you think this is going to help or hurt Trump in November, this whole situation?
Okay, so I want to talk to you as a capital manager, whatever my personal differences are with the president. I actually would have told you that he had a weaker chance because I think people were getting fatigued of him. But I think he has a very powerful narrative potentially now as a quote unquote wartime president And if the stimulus works and we're powered up in October, he'll be able to say that he was the responsible agent for bringing the economy back from the brink. And so I had him losing the election in January, the contrarian that I am. And many people said he was a slam dunk in January. Now people are saying he's even money, but I actually think he has a better than even chance here now. One of the things that's to his advantage, and remember, presidential elections are marketing contests.
Yep.
And he has a very interesting marketing narrative to tell people if we can pull ourselves out of these doldrums. I guess the last thing I would say is you do get some sympathy as a wartime leader. What would be going up against the president, however, is what happened to George W. Bush's dad, George Herbert Walker Bush. He had a 91% approval rating after the Iraq War, and then he subsequently lost the election to Bill Clinton. If I were on the president's campaign team right now, there would be data that would be concerning me. And that is in 3 weeks ago, Super Tuesday 3, you had 500,000 more registered Democratic voters in Michigan than you had in 2016. And so if I was on his campaign team, I would say, whoa, the passion this time could be on the side of the Democrats, even though Joe Biden isn't that cult-like demagogic figure. The passion could be for a return to some kind of normalcy as it relates to political leadership. So it's even money with the favorite, nudge of favoritism towards President Trump.
Fair enough. And couldn't agree more. I mean, it really depends on where this ends up by that point, I think. I think if we're in a resurgence right as the election hits and there's some problems happening, yeah, I think it's an issue. I think if we're coming out of this, you're right. I think he gets credit for that. And it looks like we got another question, which is, what about a stimulus for contractors? Do you know how I actually don't know how the new bill dealt with contractors, but have you seen it?
Yes, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that, but my guess is there's got to be something in there, because the broad mandate from the Congress was there are no villains, there are only victims, and their goal is to try to create a restoration of where we were back in February before the debacle happened. Yeah. So I'm sure there's got to be something there for them.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure.
I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, so putting your director of comms hat on, what would be your message to the American people right now? Like if you got to talk, be on the daily brief that's going on right now for the coronavirus, what would be the message you'd want to put out there?
Well, I'm probably a little bit more in Andrew Cuomo's camp on delivering these messages, so I would be a little bit more concise. I would probably be a little bit more open about the reality of the situation. I think the president, is sometimes spinning a little bit there, where this is great and we did that great and we did this great. And I would be more, I think the American people probably wanted a little bit straighter and a little bit more clinical. Believe it or not, bad news delivered in the right manner has a tonic-like effect on people. They're like, okay, I get it. We're going to have 10,000 deaths, 25,000 deaths. How am I going to protect my family? I'm going to keep them away from everybody. Okay, great. How am I going to protect my business? Well, here's a plan to help you with your business. A responsible government. I'm a Republican. I'm a lifelong Republican, and so I have a little bit of a conservative bent philosophically. But I do believe that a government should be energetic and responsive in a crisis. It certainly should be protecting people. You need a good military, strong defense. You have to have the public good and the social contract of having great roads and infrastructure. But you sort of are paying all of these tax dollars so that if you have a COVID-19 pandemic, your government can be there to help you in that time of need. And so I would say by and large, they're doing a pretty good job of that.
Awesome. Means a lot. And how has this affected your business, whether it's culturally or operationally?
Oh, it sucks. No, it sucks. I think my team is stressed out. I guess the good news is we made a decision to close the office in New York City the first week in March. So I'm very proud to say that nobody on that team has gotten COVID-19, thank God, that I'm aware of, knock on wood. And so we got out of the city early enough, but I think that people are stressed out. We've taken a hit to our performance, sort of in line with the market, sort of expected based on what's going on around us, which, is stressful in itself. You're taking that hit, but you're shrouded in your house. I'm in my home office and I'm making phone calls and I'm looking at market data, talking to you, watching CNBC, trying to get up to speed with what's going on portfolio wise, not wanting to make too many dramatic shifts from a point of seclusion, and looking forward to getting back together with my team, and hopefully we can get them going in the right direction. But people are stressed out.
So on that note, 2 more questions and then we'll wrap. One is, would you be investing in stocks right now? Would you be putting cash into the market?
Well, I am. Yeah, no, I've put money in. I put money in April 1st. I had a liquidation event for myself. I put money into my fund. We tilted our fund much more towards equities than it's been recently. And yes, I'm bullish. I think that we're going to have a little bit of a jagged line here. But what I would tell people, when you think it's time to invest, it'll be too late. There'll be so much good news already into the market. It will have lifted prices to the point where you should have been there earlier. You have to be trained almost the way they train you in the military. You run towards the bullets in the military. You don't run away from them. And if you're in the business like I am, 31 years, you run towards the falling prices. You don't run away from them. And so to me, I've been buying.
Nice. Awesome. And then last question really is just final words from you. Would love any final tips, tricks for the audience, business owners.
So I have a Post-it that's on my mirror. I try to shave every day because I don't want to look like a Sasquatch. I mean, my hair's going a lot longer and it's getting a lot grayer. I can't get to my colorist in these perilous times. But I do have a Post-it on my mirror when I shave in the morning, and you should put that Post-it on your mirror. And it's an acronym. It's SOO. Okay, it's not SOS. It's SOO. And my message to everybody listening in, SOO, stay on offense. Okay, don't get knocked to your heels in a crisis. Don't get knocked to your heels because you're having a dilemma in school, or you can't get your business open, or you can't get your career started, or you can't find the job that you want. Be optimistic, SOO, stay on offense. And that's my resounding message to everybody listening in today.
Amen. Thank you so much for the time.
Okay.
This is really
great to be here.
Awesome.
Next time I come back on, I'm going to have a nice spray tan. I'm going to look a lot better than I do right now.
You
invite you back. All right. God bless you.
Will be. Thank you.
All right.